Hello, I'm Pastor Rutherford bringing you a thought-provoking message today about child discipline. Our information for here at the church is, again, I'm Pastor Phil. My wife is First Lady Lisa. This is Christian Life Tabernacle, located at 3017 Egypt Hike, Chillicothe, Ohio, 45601. Our phone number is area code 740-773-5433. We normally meet on Sundays at 10 morning and 6 in the evening. It's Eastern Standard Time. And Wednesdays is at 7 Eastern Standard Time. You can join us on Christian Life Tabernacle's Facebook page for further information about the church. So I'm going to teach on child discipline today. So this message is provided to address some of the social, psychological, and the emotional consequences of the pandemic that we are experiencing at this time. Information that I am providing, again, is not exhaustive. It is simply condensed for the purpose of providing viewers with some knowledge regarding positive child discipline and a means to successfully transition in a positive way from negative behaviors to positive behaviors for children. I want to go on record by saying, if you do not use the ways to address child discipline in the way I am explaining, I am in no way indicating or implying that you are conducting child discipline in the wrong manner. It's simply some things that experts have discovered that are effective with a lot of children. Yours may be an exception. If the way you are disciplining your children isn't working, or it causes frustration, anger, or resentment on the part of both parties, the parent and the child, then you might want to consider another means of training. So I am providing an alternative to some child discipline. Continue to do the same thing over and over again and expecting things to change, and it doesn't change. On one part, people say that is the definition of insanity, and it may be persistence, but only you know the difference. Real change, real positive change, doesn't happen overnight. Real and lasting change happens through the practice of perfection of positive routines to create positive habits. Have you ever asked your child, how many times do I have to tell you something? Well, the answer to that age-old question is about 23 to 27 times. So you don't need to keep count, but you just need to realize that children don't think like adults, so they don't always learn on the first try. Tying your shoes, riding a bike, creating a new habit. So let's see what we might learn about positive child discipline. So one of the things that I'm going to suggest is that you write the rules of the household down where everybody can see them. So this might be helpful and productive to sit down as a family and agree on the rules of the household. Maybe about 7 to 10 rules to address issues that you're experiencing right now with your children. So write them down. You can even have the children write them down. And if they're in crayon, you could have them write them down. And so get some suggestions from your children that things that they think that they could do better on, like don't talk back, pick up your toys, do your chores, keep your room clean, whatever it may be, and post them where everyone can see them, maybe on the refrigerator. That's kind of a central point of communication for a family. And then every other day, you might want to rehearse them, until you don't have to memorize them, but until the children know what the rules of the household are. Having some difficulty here with the camera again. Okay, so let's see if I can change this. Here we go. Okay. Adults and children both have suffered a loss during this pandemic. Maybe parents have lost their jobs. They've lost socialization. Children have lost going to school and socializing with their friends. When we have a loss, as I've taught before during the depression and anxiety message, if you want to review it, that when people grieve, one of the stages of grieving is anger. Anger and discipline of children do not go hand in hand. So there's a scripture that I would like to use, and it's found in Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 6, and it says, "Train up a child in the way he should go or she should go, and when he or she is old, they will not depart from it." The word train in the Hebrew here means to initiate or discipline. It means to dedicate. So there is dedication in training, coaching, learning with your children. Some scholars believe that this training has to do with the palate or with creating an appetite for healthy foods. So children crave positive discipline. Discipline isn't punishment. It's not spanking. It's not paddling. Discipline involves, again, physical and verbal training. So it's important that we understand that. So I have a granddaughter, the youngest one, and my daughter-in-law, my son, have trained her to have an appetite for healthy food. So she won't drink pop, tea, really not even chocolate milk. She likes broccoli, she likes cauliflower, she likes healthy food, and they should. And so they have trained her. They have developed a taste for her palate, to crave healthy foods. So when we go to a restaurant, she wants water to drink. And when she orders broccoli, the server says, "Do they really want broccoli?" And I say, "Yes, they do." So we want to create a positive discipline for our children, or training. So training involves several stages. The first step in training is you would tell and then show how to do something. And then the person that you're training, they would tell, and you would do it. They would tell the steps, and then you would physically do it. And then they would tell what they're doing, and they would do it. They would show you how to do it. Then you send them on their way to tell and to do, to show what they have learned. So these are stages of training that even businesses use to train employees. So let's talk about verbal commands also. I want you to understand that the verbal command or instruction that is no should be used very sparingly when one of these conditions is about to occur. The child will be physically hurt. The child is going to physically hurt another person, or the child may physically damage something. I had a granddaughter, and they would do things, and instead of using the word no, I would use some kind of a sound from my voice, like and I would use that to get their attention. And I used no very sparingly. So when one of them was getting ready to put, I think it was a bobby pin or something in an outlet, and I said no very loudly and very sternly, it shook her. It startled her, because no is only for when the child is going to be hurt, they're going to hurt somebody, or they're going to damage something. If you use the word no all the time, one little girl we knew growing up, she thought her name was No-No. "What's your name?" "No-No." I'm serious. So when they get to be about 16 and they say, "Can I use the car?" and you say no. And they say, "Seriously, can I use the car?" and you say no. And they say, "But I really need to use the car." And you say no. And on you go. Around the merry-go-round you go, and where it stops, nobody knows, the parent or the child, because no doesn't mean no to them because you use it all the time. So use the word no very sparingly. I also want to remind you that when anger issues on both parties part occurs, feelings get hurt, Negative reactions may take place, and there is danger in anger. So remember, when we push others, physically or emotionally or even psychologically, they're going to push back in the same way. Very subtle. You push, people push back. So again, please review the messages that I did on depression and anger, depression and anxiety, anger, and then resolving conflict that I did this past Monday. So let's talk about puppies and children, because you raise puppies and children the same way. How are they similar? What does that mean? Well, first of all, when you're training a puppy, you ignore the behavior you don't want. You replace the behavior with what you want, and then you reward the good behavior. So if a puppy is chewing on something that isn't theirs, a toy, chewing on your shoes or furniture or whatever, you simply give them that command, ah, ah, ah. If that doesn't work, touch them and make a sound, because they don't like that. It startles them. And so you want to ignore what you don't want, replace it with what you do want, and then reward the good behavior. You are not bribing your children to do the right thing. So raising puppies and children are very similar in the tactics and the strategies. And I use those terms because it seems like parents have engaged in urban warfare with their children and children with parents. I had a rescue dog that when I would go up to pet him and play with him, he wanted to grab my hand with his mouth. And I didn't want that behavior because my granddaughters were little at that time, and I didn't want him to do it to them. So I would give him a verbal command, ah, ah, and then would play with him or pet him, give him a positive replacement behavior. And if he continued the negative behavior, I would end the playtime. And he learned very quickly that if he would grab my hand with his mouth, that I would stop playing with him. So he stopped grabbing my hand with his mouth. So if he really wanted to play, he got the message and stopped doing the negative behavior. So let's look at a scripture that kind of supports this. And it's found in Proverbs again. And it says, he that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him at times. Now, people misquote this, bear the rod and spare the child. That's not what the scripture says. Somebody interpreted it that way, repeated it, and as many Christians do, they simply repeat something they think sounds inspirational and would raise their hand and put one hand on the Bible and swear it's in there somewhere. So it says, he that spareth his rod hateth his son. So the rod, spare the rod, does not mean corporal punishment. The rod does not mean corporal punishment. Sparing the rod refers to proper training and instruction in how to do things in the right way. So the rod on the shepherd's belt was used to guide or direct the sheep in the right way. So it's important that we understand that. Many psychologists, and in particular behavior psychologists, Skinner's box, where he trained rats and pigeons, and Pavlov, when the bell rings, the dog salivates, did not believe that punishment was a very successful way to change negative or unwanted behavior. Positive reinforcement was a successful way to create new behavior, puppies and children, and replace negative behavior with a positive behavior, and reward that behavior with positive physical and verbal reinforcement. If you have had the misfortune of starting late with positive child discipline or training with your children, it may take weeks or months for new positive behaviors to begin. So remember the question, how many times do I need to tell you? Somewhere between 23 and 27 times. This is going to take the practice of perfection to create a new positive behavior or routine. Change takes time. Sometimes change involves a sense of loss of control. Children may become angry over the new changes. If you've ever been at work and they bring new changes in, you get upset. Same thing happens with your children. Things may get worse before they get better, so please be patient. You're the parent, they're the child. Stick with your training until the child gets the positive new behaviors and thoughts and verbal responses. So parents do three things. I call them the three P's. It is the parent's job to protect, provide, and prepare your child for the real world. This is very important that we understand this. So as parents, we want to protect our children from danger, from harm, from things that may hurt them, or people that may harm them or hurt them. We provide what they need, food and shelter, love, compassion, understanding, fellowship, relationships. And then we prepare them for the real world. We train them because one day, when they're 18 and they go off to school, or they get a job, or they move out and get a job, or move away, start their own family, you want them to be prepared for the real world. So I'm going to provide you with some opportunities for positive discipline. And so I'm going to start with corporal punishment, because some people do use paddling or spanking as a means of discipline, but it's actually punishment. I personally paddled our son when he was growing up, and I would give him direction regarding negative or destructive behavior or verbal responses, and he would get a warning, and then if he did it again, he got a second warning. The Bible talks about after the first and second admonition, and after the second time, I would tell him, this is the second time that I've told you this, and I'm not telling you again, I'm going to paddle you. So the Bible is very clear and says, and you fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up. Let me use the word train, but train them up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. So it's important that we understand that we are directing, we are training, we are coaching our children forward to the behaviors that we want and the verbal responses that we desire. We're not controlling them as robots or programming them as computers. But what we're striving to do is give them positive direction so that they have positive behaviors and positive responses. So when they do leave the household and they're dealing with other folks, they interact with other people in a positive way. So it's important that we understand that after the first and second admonition, if you tell a child you're going to paddle them, that you paddle them, but paddling is not done in anger, and it's certainly not done to harm a child. Question that somebody might say or ask, or statement they may make, well, it's against the law to paddle your children. I used to work for Children's Division when I ran Roten Youth and Family Services, and you can paddle your child, you can spank your child, you can correct your child. However, if you leave a bruise, then you've gone too far, and that's abuse. So if it leaves a red mark, if you paddle somebody, paddle a child, it's going to leave a red mark. Well, it was too hard. A bruise is abuse. So I want to be clear about that. You can paddle your children. Don't ever do it in anger. You always want to do it in love. This sounds funny. I love you, and this is going to hurt me more than it does you. I would tell my mother and father, please don't hurt yourself. They paddle me anyway. So generally, an assertive no at times does suffice, but there were probably about five times in my son's life until he was about 10 years old that I paddled him, and after 10, paddling is pretty much ineffective, and many experts have agree with that, and I've written papers on corporal punishment. I agree with paddling. Some people don't. That's fine. But paddling is a last option. First warning, second warning, I'm going to paddle you if you do it again. So it's important that we understand that if punishment regularly continues, if you're always paddling your child, don't ever slap them. Don't slap them in the face. If you're always knocking around on your child, which isn't effective, that's ineffectiveness on the parent's part, that something else may be required to encourage positive behavior. Think about it. If punishment really worked, would we need prisons? There are approximately 2.2 to 2.3 million prisoners in prisons incarcerated in the United States at any one time. About 1 out of 36 people that you come into contact with is on probation or parole. That's astounding. 1 in about 36 people is on probation or parole. So the 2.2 to 2.3 million men and women that are incarcerated across the United States, at somewhere between $25,000 and $35,000 per year. Do the math. Punishment doesn't work. Crime and punishment doesn't work. Now, there's about 5% of the people that are incarcerated that probably need to be incarcerated, and maybe for life. But the other 95%, it's not doing them any good. In fact, they learn negative behaviors if they're incarcerated for more than 2 years. If we could replace it with positive reinforcement, that would be better. In fact, for $25,000 to $30,000 a year, you could send them to college for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, and make them self-productive as citizens in their community. Do we want to spend the $25,000 to $30,000 on something negative or on something positive? Positive really works. Now, let's look at another option that we have, and that's called swift, short, and sure. If punishment is used, it needs to be swift immediately after the negative behavior or the verbal response. It needs to be short, and it needs to be sure. So again, punishment needs to, if there's punishment used by the parent, then the punishment needs to happen immediately after the behavior. If you send your child to their room and you have to physically hold the door shut, that was swift, but it wasn't sure. So it needs to be swift. It needs to be something that you can have them do, make them do. Now remember, when you push, they're going to push back, and that it's sure. So it's swift, it's short, it's sure. The child may get the wrong message when you send them to the room. Here, you send them to the room, and the child is thinking, they don't want to be around me. The parent doesn't want to be around me. So when they come out, they're going to find a way to push back and disrespect the parent. They're going to have an accident and break something of yours. Oops. So I just want you to be sure that when you push, children are going to push back too. The child may act out just to get attention, and that's negative attention behavior, and the parent needs to recognize when a child is using negative attention behavior techniques to get the parent's attention. Children, again, cannot think like adults. They are children. Adults are thinking one way. Children think another way. So it's important we understand the concept of the psychology of a child, or the way a child can and cannot think. And if you want to look at some interesting studies, Erik Erikson does one, and a guy named Jean Piaget talk about stages of development. I don't really care for Sigmund Freud's stages of development. I just don't think they're that positive. But I do look at Erikson and Piaget and see value in theirs and their stages of development. Children spell love T-I-M-E. They just want the parents to spend positive time with them. And as Ephesians said, you're nurturing the child, and it is their desire that you nurture them and train them in the way they should go. Now, no significant learning can take place without a significant relationship first. So it's important that you do positive things or fun things with your children. Movie night, game night, you take them places. It doesn't always have to be the museum, the zoo, something positive or something fun that they want to do. Ask them. And a lot of times it doesn't cost money. Going on a bike ride, going for a walk. A lot of times they don't ask for money. They just want to spend time with the parent. Children may simply feel like they are an object and not a person. And when an individual becomes an object is easier to abuse. Be very cautious about that. Now let's discuss some other options parents or caregivers may use with their children. So let's talk about timeout. Timeout. Timeout is a very effective disciplinary option for parents to use, primarily with younger children, somewhere between ages 2 to 6, depending on the maturity of the child. And generally about 1 minute per age is adequate. So if they're 2, a couple minutes, 3, 2 or 3 minutes, just, you have to look at the child and what they are able to do during timeout. So I would suggest just, again, a minute per age. When you set a specific amount of time, 10 to 15 minutes, really for a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, that's an eternity. But you say you sit there for 15 minutes or for 10 minutes or whatever it may be, you may be challenged by your child to comply during the entire time of timeout. I prefer that children do not be placed in a corner or put their nose on the wall. I don't see that being valuable. I would like for them to be able to see the parent during the time and to see the parent as a trainer and as a coach. That's how they should view the parent, as a trainer or as a coach. Sometimes parents will tell children, now you sit there and you think about what you did while they are in timeout. So the child is sitting there thinking about what they did wrong. And when they come out of timeout, guess what they're going to do? They're going to do it again. So what you want to do, and I want to offer this alternative, is you have the child, while they're in timeout, consider what they will do differently the next time, something positive the next time, and the parent then becomes a coach to condition their child, to coach them forward, to respond positively with positive behavior and positive verbal responses. So you want them to think about what they're going to do different the next time, and when they can articulate that to you and or apologize, I am sorry for, and whatever the behavior was they did or did not do, or what they may have said or did not say, when they can positively explain to you what they're going to do the next time, then they can come out of timeout. Now, not within 30 seconds or 1 minute. You give them time to roll it over in their head, and then you tell them after maybe 3 or 4 minutes, when you're ready to apologize, then and tell me what you will do different the next time, then timeout is over. So you're working them towards a positive goal. I want to remind you that it's important that as parents we understand that words trigger pictures, words or sounds trigger pictures or images in the human brain, which triggers the emotions or the attitudes of an individual, and that produces a behavior or an action. The parent reinforces this process with their words, with verbal instructions, to create new images of positive behavior, positive emotions or attitudes about the new behavior. So the child practices this. Practice of perfection makes perfect. Practice does not make perfect. Practice makes a habit. Practice of perfection makes perfect. And so the parent helps the child learn new behaviors and new verbal responses with the parent's words. I want to give you another option that you can use with the words, and it's called either or when then. So parents can use either or when then statements with their children as effective verbal communication and instruction to change negative behavior or verbal responses. So you can say either change your words or change the topic of discussion. Or if they're doing a negative behavior, either turn the TV down or turn it off. They're probably going to turn it down. If they don't comply and you say it a second time, this is the second time I've asked you to do this, either turn the TV down or turn it off. And the third time, you're going to say, I asked you to turn the TV down twice. Now I'm going to turn it off, and it's going to be off for a certain amount of time. Maybe a half hour, or maybe the rest of the day. So it's important that we give them that instruction. When you get done cleaning your room, then you can go outside and play. When you get the yard mowed, then you can go shoot hoops, whatever it may be. So they're going to comply with what you want, then they get what they want. And while they're arguing with you or they're debating it with you, saying, you're wasting time arguing and discussing this when you could have had it done and doing what you wanted to do. So we want to make sure that we give them an admonition, first or second admonition or a warning, and then a consequence for not complying. Generally, children will learn when a parent says something the second time, and you tell them, now this is the second time I've had to tell you this. I've had to make a request. The child learns through routine of the parent. They learn something that they can control. And it has not occurred. So either their behavior or their verbal responses. And the parent is going to take that control from them if they don't. So it's important that we understand that we give them that direction. I want to give you another option of parenting, and it's called earning privileges. So let's talk about earning privileges. Children need to be trained up, as the scripture said, or coached forward into positive behavior or verbal responses. Let me explain for just a moment, if I can, what coaching forward really means. Coaching forward, a guy I knew was a football coach, and he sent the punter in to punt during a game, and the punter kicked the ball off the side of his foot, and it went down about 12 yards and went out of bounds. And when he came off the field, the coach is screaming at him, what are you doing? You kicked the ball off the side of your foot, you're killing us, And so the punter goes over and sits on the bench, and he's thinking about kicking the ball off the side of his foot. He has to go in. This is a true story. He had to go in again. Kicks the ball off the side of his foot again. It went about 11 yards. And the coach is furious and yelling and screaming and throwing his clipboard and throwing his hat on the ground. And he's yelling at this kid, you're kicking the ball off the side of your foot. Go over and sit down on the bench. You're killing us, man. Happened a third time. This time the ball went about 7 yards. And the coach is just livid. And he's yelling at the kid, and he says, and beside that, your grades are bad. Coaches got to talk about grades. So now he's throwing in all kinds of stuff. And the coach is on the sideline. He's fuming. And he begins to think about it. And he looks at the punter, his player, and he realizes, I'm the coach. He's the player. He's doing exactly what I'm telling him to do. He's kicking the ball off the side of his foot. This poor kid has to go in a fourth time. And the coach calls a timeout. And he calls him over. He says, listen, you've been punting and punting and punting for me for a long time. You know how to punt the ball. Catch the ball, you drop it, you kick it off the nose, kick it down the middle of the field, get a good bounce and roll out of it. Usually kick it, 40, 45 yards. Go punt the ball the way you know how to punt it. Kick the ball down the middle of the field. He goes in and kicks the punt down the middle of the field about 45 yards. So the coach coached him forward. Before, he was coaching him backwards, telling him what he was doing wrong. He goes in and does it again. For those of you who played football, Monday was you viewed the films from the game, and the coach showed everything you did wrong. Then he went out and practiced, and you did the same dumb thing. Just did it again. Why? Because they were coaching you backwards. Positive coaches. Now, if you're a coach, and parents, you need to tell your coach this. If coaches are yelling and screaming and cussing at kids, they need to be kicked out. They need to be thrown off the field. They're coaching your children wrong, and they're damaging your child's self-esteem. They're not building it up, and they're not encouraging. Coaches need to coach forward. Calm, cool, collected. Coach kids forward. Tell them what they did positive. And on film day on Monday, show the block they did right, the tackle they did right, the pass they caught right, the how each play was done right, and they're going to be more effective. And if you're a coach and you don't like what I said, my phone number is at the top of this video. You can call me and we'll have a debate. I'm telling you that I have the experience and knowledge of psychology. You're damaging children psychologically. Parents, you need to listen to what I'm saying. If your child plays sports and the coach is yelling and screaming at them, they are a poor coach. And you're a poor parent if you let it continue. I've challenged you now, and I said I would do thought-provoking message. So listen to what I'm saying. Now, children earn privileges. If a parent takes a cell phone, a media device, or some other privilege, the parent becomes the bad guy. However, if the child did not earn the privilege, and those are not rights, those are privileges, the child may think, you have no right to take my phone or my computer. You have no right to do that, because they view the parent as the bad guy. If the child, however, has to earn the privilege, they must comply in order to have those privileges by doing schoolwork, homework, chores, whatever it may be. Then when they want to use their phone or the computer or social media, watch TV, whatever it may be, go out and play, and the parent says, have you done your homework? Have you cleaned your room? Have you fed the dogs? Have you taken out the trash, whatever it may have been? And they say no, then the parent says, you didn't earn your phone. You didn't earn social media time. You didn't earn it. You need to do your part so that you can earn your privilege. And you're teaching children to earn privileges. And then you're not the bad guy if they don't. So what is the behavioral process for parents or caregivers that they can use to coach children in the right direction? So I'm going to give you something that is called a training academy. And it is scripturally founded in the Bible, training academies. And we started out with, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it, because it is in their long-term memory. So let's look at an option that parents have to get a child to do positive behaviors. And a training academy takes place to correct maladaptive behavior and replace it with positive ones. So there are three things that must occur for a training academy to be done correctly. Now make sure that you get these. Number one, the behavior needs to be conducted accurately. Cleaning the room, taking out the trash, washing dishes, whatever the training academy is, whatever it's been a battle to get your child to do day by day, week by week. Second thing that must occur is that the academy must occur without accidents or negative verbal outbursts or responses, complaining. The third thing, and this is most important, the third thing is the training academy must take place when the parent can withdraw or withhold something the child really wants, something they really desire. So let me explain training academies again. So make sure you explain that you're going to use a new process of training or coaching with your child to improve behavior for the purpose of cooperation, better cooperation, and relieving tension and stress and negative behaviors and negative emotions. So it's going to benefit you and the child and you. So an example is, it's been a battle all week long, maybe during this pandemic. I think we're into 45 or 46 days now. So, about 7 weeks. And it's been a battle for you to get your child to clean their room. So on the weekend, remember to practice social distancing and all those health protections, things you need to do to stay healthy. On the weekend, you have something really fun planned to do. But before you leave, you're going to do a training academy. It's going to take place before you can leave. So it's important as the parent that you explain how you want their room cleaned. If that's, vacuuming, picking up toys, making the bed, putting things away, straightening things up, whatever it means. Make sure they understand how you want the room cleaned accurately. You don't want to hear any negative verbal responses, complaining, grinding, all this, belly aching, and all this stuff. And nothing extravagant. I want you to pull the carpet up, and I want you to clean underneath the carpet, and then put the carpet back down. Nothing extravagant. Just normal, everyday cleaning of the room, whatever it may entail. So it's got to be done accurately without accidents. So once the room is clean to the satisfaction of the parent. Now remember, the child is in control. They want control. You're putting them in control. And so once the room is clean to the satisfaction of the parent, do not compromise on the exact details. Vacuuming, pick up toys, put them where they belong, straighten the room up, make the bed, get the dirty laundry from underneath the bed, whatever. It's done accurately to the exact details. Then you can proceed to the fun activity. So you want to make sure that you explain the process of the training academy very clearly to the child. Make sure that they repeat to you what's step 1, do it accurately. Step 2, no complaining, no accidents. Step 3, I got to do this, I get to do this, and do it right before we can leave. Okay, you're in control of when we leave. We can either leave early or late. You're in control. The either or. We can either leave early or late. You're in control. When you get done, then we can leave. So you're using either or, when, then. And so the action may be completed. However, there was an accident with complying that took place. They knocked over the trash can. You could hear them in there, running their mouth, stupid academy, I gotta do all this stuff. If they don't comply, they have to start all over again. Mess the bed up. No, you don't mess the bed up. Mess the bed up, put the toys back out. They don't have to dirty the carpet again, but they got to go get the sweeper, and bring it back in the room, and they have to do it all over again. Put the toys away, vacuum, make the bed. When you're done, come tell me, and I'll look at it and make sure it's done. I want to hear your mouth, no accidents. So let's say it will take the child 30 minutes to clean the room, and I know that might be a lot. You're planning on leaving at noon, so around 10 o'clock, maybe 11 o'clock, you give them plenty of time to get the room clean so that you can leave on time. Child starts again at 11 o'clock. There's an accident or complaining takes place. They must start all over again. Make them undo it, make them undo it. Don't you do it, make them undo it, and then do it over again. So let's say this continues till 12:30. You were going to leave at 12. Remind the child that they're in control of their behavior and their verbal responses. And as soon as they comply, they're going to challenge you. Remember, things may get worse before they get better. So as soon as they comply, you can be on your way. So if you were going to the zoo and you were going to stay until 4 o'clock, you still leave the zoo at 4 o'clock. You don't stay till 4:30. Well, we didn't get to leave till 12:30. We get to stay at 4:30. No. Child was in control of their behavior and their verbal responses. And because your child determined the outcome of their behavior or lack thereof, the time still stays the same. You can do training academies on washing the dishes, picking up toys, taking out the trash, various other chores. You don't want to do it with feeding dogs or cats. You don't want to tease them with food and water. But remember, training academies must take place when the parent can withdraw or withhold something important or valuable or significant that the child wants to do, and they are earning the privilege to do something that they want. So whatever they may want to do, you withhold it until they comply. I have given you several examples or alternatives of child discipline, training, coaching, and these examples were not exhaustive. It's what I have found in my studies and research, just something for parents and caregivers to consider as a source of opportunities to create new behaviors and verbal responses. I want to remind those of you who listen to this message, that if you choose to use other methods of discipline rather than the ones that I have suggested, you're not doing things wrong. It's just you found something that works, doesn't create negative emotions or behaviors or frustration with you or your child. So I don't want you to feel like you're doing it wrong if you don't do it the ways that I have suggested. You simply have chosen something that works for your child. The question remains, is what you are doing effective? Does it eliminate negative behaviors without causing hurt feelings or resentment on your part or the child? That's only something that you can determine. I am Pastor Phil, and my hope and my prayer is that I have provided you with some information that is helpful and productive, and I also hope that you are remaining safe and healthy and encouraged during these trying times. Have a great day.